Okay, looks like we are live. Hey, y'all.
What's good, y'all?
All right, we got some folks tuned in.
For
Hey,
the record,
Josiah.
I don't know what
Axel.
I'm doing with my hands. I'm just doing this.
Dr. Candace. Jan. Boiling Girl. Melanie. Josiah asked, how are we doing this evening?
I'm tired, bro. I've been moving, packing up my
Yeah.
whole
How
apartment.
how are y'all doing this evening? Because honestly, it's just like every week is something, you know. Um, it can be a
Mm-hmm.
little heavy, but we gotta keep faith and just keep hope, stay hopeful, and stay involved and stay engaged, even though it may seem hard.
So true. So true. Welcome, everybody. There's a lot of people joining. We're going to go on ahead and get the show started. So, Drew.
Yo, 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 yo. New name. Who this? Yo, what's up, yo? It's you kicking it with the true, the one, the only. What I like to call Biden Harris Watch, but we call ourselves Biden Harris Watch, but I call BH Dub. You feel me? Because you know what I'm saying. But nah, check it out, check it out. Yo, it's your boy Drew Comments. You know, man, I'm 34 years old and I just started a sentence off with it's your boy. Lord Jesus, I'm 10 years too late. But it's all right. We keeping it for the culture, yo. But I'm back in the world once again with my amazing Kamala Harris supporting friends. And now we are out here pushing the energy, keeping the energy alive, making sure you get fact over fiction. Make sure you get truth over tales, and make sure you get just that straight up real over that fake crap. Yo, so it's Drew Comments. Like I said, I got my red solo cup. No alcohol this week. It's what we working on? Green Hawaiian Punch. Cause I'm 12 years old for real. Move right along. Yo, you got my man Kenny in the house. Too raw, too real. What's popping?
What's up, y'all? It's Too Raw, Too Real, aka Kenny. I'm just sipping on some margarita right now. Just got off of work,
Nice.
had to rush. I was almost late on CP time, but we in here.
Yo, I'm glad you mentioned that because I know the whole push right now is to get people to vote early, and I was like, yo, trying to convince black folk to do anything early. Say no, is that wrong to say it out loud? I'm just gonna keep it real. Hey, y'all, look, we here. It's
Well,
us.
you'd be
We family.
surprised how many black people, it's mainly older black people, vote early, very
Word.
early. They don't play no
Word.
games. They say I ain't got time to be sitting in no line for hours on end.
That's because they go to bed early too. When I say black folk being late, I'm talking about myself, yo. Anytime I say black people, I'm talking about me. I am guilty of every
I am black
stereotype.
people.
It's the young black folks.
Of
We
every stereotype, that is me, unfortunately. Also, we got Maya Contreras, the voting guru. What's happening with you?
I'm good. I'm just drinking some gin and tonic. It's been a long week. I might have another after we're done with this, but yeah, I'm ready to
Oh,
go.
man. I was trying to think of like a cool nickname for you, and then like the weirdest thing just came in my head right now. I was like, she's the ballerina of ballots, and I was like, nah, that doesn't work. And I was like,
I like
oh,
that. I like
I took
the
ballet. I took ballet for a long time.
I can believe it. Oh no, she's the Empress of elections. There you go. There you go.
I
Okay.
love
that.
that.
The Empress
Good
of the
one.
electorate. And also we got Black Women Views. Reese, you know what I'm saying? Go Bruins. What's happening with you?
Go Bruins. Yes, yes, yes. I just want to give y'all a heads up. We will be talking about the platinum plan. Or the platinum scam. I've seen a lot of comments on it. We're going to be addressing that. It's not the first topic, so y'all gonna have to stick around. But yeah, let's get into it, as Kenny would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Wait, what you drinking on? Hold on. Is that a Moscow Mule or
Mm-hmm.
Moscow Mule?
of
Nice.
course. Because she's
Nice.
Wait,
not your mule, remember?
check
I'm
it
not
out.
sure mules. Okay. The only
Look
mules
at
in this house are these. That's it.
Word up. Let's get into it. All right. All right. So, we're just gonna lead off with it with the results of the final results of the Breonna Taylor investigation. AG Daniel Cameron addressed the media the other day with the official Kentucky Department of Justice findings. Kenny, I know you wanted to get in on that in that
So,
particular topic.
for some people who just don't know what's going on, in Louisville, Kentucky, the grand jury decided that Literally, they were only going to bring charges to one of 3 officers involved in Breonna Taylor's death. And the sad thing about it, it was literally what he was charged with was the first degree wanton engagement charges. So he wasn't even charged endangerment charges. So he wasn't even charged for killing Breonna Taylor. He was pretty much in charge for endangering her neighbors. So that just shows you
neighbors, not the
white
black
neighbors,
ones, the
white neighbors. Let's be clear, white neighbors. So it just shows that they don't care about any of our lives. And what I wanted to really talk about, especially when it came to Daniel Cameron, I just wanted to emphasize this. He literally did absolutely nothing. And I want you to understand that he's the attorney general. These people are elected. So when people are saying that Black Lives Matter, but their votes don't matter, we elect these people. These are elected officials. And one thing I really want to emphasize is that we actually have policy on the Senate floor right now introduced by Kamala Harris called the Justice and Policing Act, which actually holds police accountable when Daniel Cameron fails to act. That gives us subpoena power to actually look into the police departments. And that's something that Kamala Harris has already introduced. So when you're saying that your vote doesn't matter, everything matters in this particular election, especially when it comes to voting locally, especially when it comes to voting even electorally. Because if we do not stack the Senate, if we do not stack the House, the Justice and Police Act cannot be passed. If we do not elect the president, it will not be passed into law. So real tangibles and real policies that's actually going to protect us and get us justice, because we're the most vulnerable, we have to actually act this time. We have to actually vote. And that was mainly what I wanted to kind of go over, because we're going to talk about voting a little bit later. Any comments about Bree?
Yeah, can I also just a couple of things also came out. It came out today, I believe it was, that Kenneth Walker, he had been accused of actually shooting one of the cops. Ooh, there's a spider that just came out of nowhere. I'm gonna try to hold my composure, chair, because it's okay. Go to somebody else. I'll be back.
I think you're talking about he shot back at the police is what you're talking about, right?
Right.
I mean, the whole situation it was illegal. It was a no-knock warrant. I don't care what the situation is. It shouldn't have happened, and it was called to the wrong house. Wasn't that correct?
So no, it's not. That's not. So this is what happened. They did have a warrant for Breonna Taylor's house, in addition to another house. They had actually apprehended the person that they had been surveilling, which was Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend. Mm-hmm. So the cops claim, even though 10 out of 11 witnesses said that they did not announce themselves, they claim that they announced themselves. So one of the things that I wanted to just quickly address is the fact that Kenneth Walker had been accused of shooting one of the cops. So one of the cops was shot in the leg. Well, there's forensic evidence that shows, and this was kind of part of some of the documents that were reported on in Vice, that it was actually more likely one of the cops that shot him, because the ballistics did not match Kenneth Walker's gun, and the forensics did not match the proximity in terms of Kenneth Walker was about 20 feet away when the shots were fired, and the gunshot wound appeared to be inflicted by something closer up. So that's just one of the ways in which the evidence had been skewed. The story had been told wrong. It's propaganda, anti-Breonna propaganda, anti-Breonna Kenneth Walker propaganda. And so that's just one thing I wanted to point out, because a lot of people have tried to suggest, well, it's Kenneth Walker who has culpability because he shot at the cops. Well, you have a right to stand your ground. It's not called stand your ground in Kentucky, but essentially along those lines. So he was doing what's in his right to do, not knowing that these are the cops busting through the door because they didn't announce themselves. So that's just one of the points I wanted to make. Another thing I wanted to do is I wanted to shout out State Representative Attica Scott. She's actually a person who pushed for Breonna's law for the change in Louisville, Kentucky, to where they have banned no-knock warrants. She was actually arrested last night protesting. And she castle doctrine. Thank you, Jennifer, in the comments. That's what I was referring to in terms of stand your ground, but not stand your ground. It's castle doctrine. But anyway, Attica Scott was arrested protesting, and they charged her with Class D felonies and all kinds of stuff, inciting a riot, and just all these just ridiculous charges. And it's just crazy. It's not unbelievable, but it's crazy that we have a so-called justice system that makes it illegal to peacefully protest, but it's not illegal to shoot a Black woman in her own home that's unarmed. That is what's absolutely disgusting. So I just want to shout her out. She has really, really, really been fighting all of the activists, Tamika Mallory and others. They're local activists. Hannah, I want to shout her out, Hannah Drake. And I don't want it to be a shout out thing because I'm sure I would be missing people that are very, very important. But I just want to shout out those who are on the ground in Louisville, who haven't given up on Breonna Taylor. Her life matters. There are things that we can do. One of the things that I had an opportunity yesterday on Roland Martin's show was to talk with Valerie Castile, who's Philando Castile's mom. And I was just inspired by the fact that she's still out there. She's involved with this No Reach Pouch initiative that another Black woman came up with. And one of the things that she said that I just want to bring up here is she said, now this wasn't as it relates to voting, but what she said was, anything that you can do is a bonus, is a plus. And so I just want you guys to think about that. Not everything that we do and not any one thing that we do is going to be the silver bullet that's going to solve every issue, but anything that we do, and the simplest thing that we can do is vote, can make a difference. It can make a difference at the local, state, and federal level, and everything is on the line in this election.
Absolutely right. And those ballistics on that gun, that make all the difference in the world. Because I don't think anyone could argue the fact that Kenneth would not have been within his right at that time of night when someone's busting up in your house to grab a gun and start. That's just, Andre 3000 said, "When reason for a gun, only one. Strong believer in self-preservation." So, like, if self-preservation is the goal, I can understand it. But now, when you're looking at the ballistics and understanding that, wait a minute, it don't match. Alibis ain't matching up, bullshit catching up. Well, now that's a whole nother light, which makes the decision even more abhorrent, to be quite honest with you, because now it's like you had no reason to be shooting, to be honest. Like, now that whole story. Because, like, even if you wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I got friends that are cops, and I've looked at this story so many times, and I'm like, okay, like, maybe it was a perfect storm. Like, just you try to even that sliver to say, I can understand how that happens. Well, in a situation like this now, where the ballistics don't even match up, now that entire theory is now in the water. Now this decision is ridiculous, is wholly gross. It is gross. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So yeah, voting is definitely important, and which is actually what I wanted to mention. As a matter of fact, just the importance of voting. We saw. Number one, first of all, the district attorney was the first people that were involved in this particular investigation. It did not start with Daniel Cameron. Obviously, we understand that. It then escalated to the Attorney General's office for the Department of Justice for the state of Kentucky. District attorneys, AGs, are largely elected positions. These are elected, as are sheriffs, as are many judges, as well. These are people with tremendous amounts of power, influence, and direct impact on people's lives. And this is why voting is so important. And this is why physical restrictions, like, to suppress votes, like voter roll purges, voter ID, BS, the poll tax, I'm gonna call it what it is in Florida, like poll taxes and for ex-felons in Florida. Even with those being in place to restrict your vote, and we keep that, we understand that. But there is a form of voter suppression that is not a physical one. And that's where it's the act of discouraging you to even show up, encouraging you or making you believe that your vote does not matter. Oh, it don't matter. I'm just whatever. This ain't going to work. The whole system, blah, blah, blah. Rigged, this, that, and third. That is by design injected into certain communities, namely ours. I'll be honest with you, because even if you come across another community who may mention that, trust and believe, they show up to the polls, they vote, they gonna get what they want. because they understand the meaning. Specifically when it comes to people like us, this is specifically this idea that your vote does not count, that, oh, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. I know Maya's heard this a million times, but, you know, that is by design, this system that we talk about. So when people say, oh, I don't trust the system, and they use that as an excuse not to vote, they don't understand you're actually contributing to the system. If you actually look at the history of voting in this country, right? How long has it been since like everybody actually had the right to vote? Every single person. I can go all the way back. We can start 17. You say 1776. I go like 1780 something. Let's go like 1780s, right? At no point from 1780s all the way up through 1960, I'll say 60. Let's go 68. Did everybody have the right to vote in this country? So the system you're talking about is literally built on or designed for you not to vote. It's not designed for you to actually get involved. The system, this is the first thing you're talking about, is designed, it depends on your apathy. And it depends on your preoccupation with other things that are deemed more important, like having to go to work, having to put food on the table, having to check homework for your kids. Why do you think that Election Day isn't a federal holiday where everything shuts down and folks, now obviously people would still have to work on certain holidays, but again, a lot of people would be out in the time, so it actually would increase turnout. Increased turnout by and large as a nation has really not been the goal. The system is designed to keep the turnout numbers small. So when you decide not to vote on your own volition, not because you were purged from a voter roll, not because your district was split up with surgical precision, not because they're oh well you didn't pay this fine from you being locked up from court cases for 5 years ago. That's understandable, or that's something that folks come together and work on and such. But when you take it upon yourself, when you are eligible, and you just decide not to do that, you are literally leaving disadvantaged people out to dry. You are leaving them at the whim of a system that was never designed. I'm going to say it. It was never designed to protect them in the first place. And you're telling them that you're saying that you have more faith in this system to do the right thing by you and other folk who are disadvantaged, folks who are the least of these. I always keep bringing that up. That's crazy to me. That's the thing I can understand. Like it's showing you it doesn't care. But when you decide, man, I ain't voting, man, whatever, I ain't doing all that, whatever, they gonna do it. Listen, you are literally saying, I trust and believe that everything will work out if I do nothing. Based on what? Because we have no evidence that says that, not in this country. If you got that kind of faith, listen, it takes more faith to believe in that than it does to believe in the Lord. Let me tell you something. I love the Lord. Let me tell you something. I don't have a level of faith that y'all have to believe this system is going to work unless you get involved. Well, okay. So this is the thing that we have to understand, because DAs, AGs specifically, bring policies with them that can either hurt or help disadvantaged people. So do those judges. So when folks stand before a judge for something that's minor, maybe somebody just had a bad day, had a run-in, things happen, where a particular judge is there and they're facing that decision that comes from that elected judge can literally change the course of somebody's life. If you are not actively involved in making sure that the right people are in those positions, that the right prosecutors are in place, that the right attorney general, you're leaving folk hanging out to dry like some laundry. Like, I'll give an example. Breonna Taylor's decision, even though we just heard the actual decision, the press conference there, but that decision was not made the other day. That decision was made back in January when Daniel Cameron was elected and assumed office. That's when that actually took place. The second he stepped in and assumed power. And so, this is what I need people to understand is like the elected positions, these positions that have the influence and the direct impact on folks' lives. These are the ones that you have the most control over. Again, the physical and systemic ways, as far as those tangible systemic ways of keeping you from voting. We understand that. I don't want to voter shame anybody in that situation, because I know people understand like voter suppression is a real deal. But when you choose yourself to say, nah, I want to be woke, I ain't gonna do it, just know what you are contributing to. And that's what I wanted to just mention. And please understand that and make sure that I get that across. So appreciate y'all. Let me say that off, get that off my chest like a bench press. Thank you.
Well, you're right, Drew. There's a sickness going on, and it's more than just coronavirus. The sickness is a sickness of hopelessness. And I think they're trying to spread that hopelessness to everyone else. Well, I want everybody else watching this right now, don't let anybody take your hope. And your hope is your vote, and a hope for a better future. So just don't listen. You just gotta have to block out all the haters. You get you some hater blockers. You know them shades. That's what Joe wears. Hater blockers. Block them out.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Do you mean the ones we were wearing like in 06 and 07?
Yes.
Nah,
the hater
bro, we
blockers.
can't bring them back.
Yes, you gotta bring them back. You gotta wear them at the polls.
Bro.
Keep them people from deterring you from voting.
Dog, I let D4L and them franchise boys influence me on that. My shades look like windshields, yo. I'm telling you, them things look like thick. No, but absolutely. Yeah, we got to stay strong and got to stay focused. Another thing, though, being staying focused and paying attention, is another thing that we have to do. Make sure we remain informed as well. And I know we try to do a good job. One of the folks that follow this do a good job of remaining informed, understand what's going on, and then spreading that information to folks who may not be able to join on the lives or maybe able to keep up with everything. Having conversations with your family, your friends, and saying, "Hey, are you aware of this? You heard about this policy?" Breaking things down. I would love if our media would be more informed. Though that would be wonderfully awesome. And I say this as a person with a journalism and mass communications degree, but so no hate. But yeah, when you tell me something like Kamala Harris has been absent and out of the public eye and not around and where's she been at and sharing square, I need you to understand that that's a lie. Number one, you cap for real. And what the heck? What are you talking about? Reese, why are they trying to, well, not even why they're trying, we already know what they're trying to do, but why do they continue to do this? Why do they continue to act like Kamala ain't out there putting work in?
Well, I think it's reinforcement of their bias. I mean, the media spent all of 2016 talking about white suburban women voters and white working class voters. And so Black voters and people of color in general have always been invisible to the mainstream media. And so it's no surprise that a vast majority of Kamala's outreach, which is towards our communities, which is appropriate, it's invisible to them because our communities are invisible. I think it's absurd to characterize her presence as invisible. She did the NAACP town hall today. She did a sister to sister event in Philadelphia. She's traveled, throughout the country and done events, certainly more events than what Donald Trump has done. And these events have been focused towards the Democratic base, which is Black, Indigenous people of color. And so they don't value us, but the important thing is that the Biden-Harris campaign does. And the thing about it is they're missing out because their timelines are not curated to the way our timelines are curated. So they're not checking our Black media. They're not checking our local media and things of that nature. What these folks do is they sit on Twitter in their cool kids club and they complain about not having access. Well, that access hasn't done jack shit for our country because that access has completely failed to hold Donald Trump accountable, by the way. But that's what they prioritize. They prioritize access and their coverage is slanted that way. But the bottom line is that people of color have access to the Biden-Harris campaign, particularly through Senator Kamala Harris. She's not invisible. She did the Versus. She popped up on Versus, which had 1.2, it had 6 million impressions and 1.2 million people on it at any given time. And, she's done a litany of events. She did Day Susan Merrill. So she's doing Black media. She's doing mainstream media as well. But the fact of the matter is that what is going to count is her presence that we see. The media is out of touch. The mainstream media is out of touch. But they've been loud and wrong. And they end up shocked. Oh my God, I can't believe Trump is saying this. Oh my God, I can't believe it's happening. Oh my God, they all day, oh my God, all day long. because they're not paying attention, but we're paying attention. When we see Kamala Harris stop for a picture with a little black girl, along the corner, or, and things like that, and we see her stop and talk to a black woman in a hair cap who ran out of a shop, and we see her in our spaces, it's noticeable, and it's noticeable to the people who vote. It may not be noticeable to the naysayers and the people who are chaos agents and they bird box to it, but the people who are actually voting and people who are actually paying attention to this election, and Black people are very highly engaged, see her, the same with Latino voters, the same with AAPI voters and Native American voters, and that's what counts, not scoring Twitter points with the mainstream media.
But to Drew's, I think I know who you're talking about, Deepa. I don't know her last name, but what she said was a straight lie, and I have the receipt on that. I'll probably post it later if you guys want to see. But she falsely claimed that Kamala Harris was hiding from the media. But an hour before that, she said, "Good question." She sat down with 2 interviews on NBC and CNN. This is just what she said. So I'm like, so if she did an interview, how is she hiding from the media? But whatever. Let's move on. I'll post it later.
She mad because they want that gaggle. But what they want is a butt her emails moment. And so what they want to do is trying to just back you in there and say, oh, well, this, blah, 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 so they can have a soundbite to run with. The issue is that... No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, but the internet, but the bad thing about Deepa is that the Twitter's forever. We screenshot everything. So, I mean...
That's true.
It is what it is, girl.
Was Deepa and this other person, was that Joe Concha, whoever it was, who said that, oh, she has been doing, like, bro, matter of fact, Roland said, she's like 14 different interviews and stuff. I'm like, that's a lot of work, man. Like, I don't understand you say that. She can't even get off a plane without the internet going crazy. Like, you can't take a step, walk down some steps without folks losing their mind.
It's the power of a Black woman. You don't understand. The Black women are they just like that. They just draw attention. Look at Reese. Look at Maya.
Look at Maya. Speaking of Maya, since I because this is the other thing I'm thinking about, not just Kamala walking down some steps and people losing their mind. She can't lace up a pair of Timbs without the internet going crazy. Yo, do you understand the level of influence you got to have to put on a pair of shoes and people lose? Think Michael Jackson, the concert where he popped up on stage and stood there like a statue for 5 minutes. It's like 100,000 people going crazy, sweating and crying. Ah! And then he went like this, turned his head. 10 people fell out. Just like, bro, like all he did was turn his head. Kamala, I'm not going to say she's Michael Jackson because I don't want to see her moonwalk or even try. But what I will say is that that's influence. But regardless, even with that, when you have that kind of effect on people, and she is constantly telling people the importance of their voices not being suppressed to vote and actually getting out to vote early, that has no choice but to be effective in getting people out to at least vote, especially vote early, right? Or am I wrong?
No, it does. It helps that all of us are saying it. I thought Nate Silver today was out of his mind or absent when he said Democrats need to tell people to vote early. Well, we've been saying it for months now. At the Democratic convention, they said vote early. This is the ball game. There's a guy on Twitter that actually is tracking how many people have requested ballots early. It's getting up to be about 1 million people that have already requested them and have received them. 1 million. We still have another 39 days to go. So that is what's influential. I wanted to touch really quickly on something that you had mentioned, Drew, about how long our country has been enfranchised as voters. We've actually only had a total of 23 years of being fully enfranchised as a country. It wasn't until 1990 when the American with Disabilities Act was passed that the recognition that polling locations needed to be ADA compliant. They're still not really compliant, but then in 1973, the language provision was put into the VRA, which helped language minorities, people who speak English as a second language, that it was passed that you would have to put election materials in different languages. So it's been a slow sludge forward, and there's a reason behind that, and it is white male supremacy. It's behind all of it, and it's unfortunate and it's exhausting, and we've seen it play out from the time of emancipation and then Reconstruction. It's been like a terrible loop happening over again. Anytime there is Black achievement, it is taken as such an affront to white business owners, white landowners, whatever the white person is in charge. This is all about power. And before I get into some voting statistics real fast, I will say that I was talking to my father-in-law this weekend. We were talking about power, because so much about what this election is about, what murdered Breonna Taylor, why there was no outcome, is because there's a central aspect of power. Cops, when they have guns, when they get into that position, there's a sense of they are in power. People who are elected to office feel like they are in power. And my father-in-law, who is a very prominent psychologist, said, power can feel like the effect of cocaine. It goes to your head in such a way that you crave more and more and more, and it will never be enough. And so that is unfortunately why we're having issues with why we can't just reform cops in the way that we want to, or why we can't even reform politicians in the way we want to, just by wishing it. It has to be through deep, deep policy changes, because we have to start rethinking of what is power. To me, what I believe is empowerment, which is what I try to do every day on the internet, is to try to empower people with knowledge so that they can help make decisions about their lives, about their communities' lives. And unfortunately, right now, the reason why some people, you were talking about Black men who might be susceptible to saying, I don't want to vote, nothing ever changes for me in this country, that is an understandable aspect, but it is also something that Republicans have been seeping in the water for a long time. They want Black people to feel that way. I had a discussion with a man yesterday on the internet about Malcolm X. He tried to invoke Malcolm's name about why he's not voting. I said, you know, Malcolm wasn't against voting. I asked him if he had watched The Bullet or the Ballot. That's a whole voting speech. And it was really talking about the fact that that Black people needed to galvanize to really be heard. Okay. So I wanted to just touch on a few of those things. Secondly, I want to say this. The reason why it's really tough to push people just to say, just vote, is because people don't understand civics in this country. That goes for the media and that goes for people. Only 39% of all Americans can name all three branches of government. Okay? 39%. There is a very low understanding of how the government works, how it works on the local level, how it works on the state level, how it works on the federal level. So if you don't know about the policies that are affecting you every day, you're not going to really want to show up to the ballot box. You don't even know if anything will change. You don't recognize that if the AG in Kentucky hadn't been elected by at least a 200,000 margin, if there was a better person who challenged him, there could have been a very different outcome, right? Okay, so I want to say that. Secondly, I want to say this is the final part I want to say. People right now have been telling me every day, Maya, I just don't know what's going to make a difference. Is it phone calling? Is it contactless canvassing? Is it text banking? What is it? All of it works, including putting lawn signs out. I read a study that lawn signs can affect the vote by up to 1%. That sounds ridiculous, but it works in the way to influence other people, for them to come out and support that candidate. But like you have a Biden-Harris sign, you know what? I like them too. I'm going to put one up, and I'm going to encourage other people to participate in this. When their community sees that, they're more apt to do it. I'm in North Carolina right now, which is a little frightening because I'm seeing Trump signs fly down the street every day on the beach. It's really frightening. But that's because everybody here, the people that are here that are for Joe Biden, they're going to not say anything because they are being intimidated by the visuals of what's happening. So lawn signs, saying that you are voting for someone, you should say it out loud and proud because it does affect the election. Next, phone calls can actually persuade people up to 3 times, can turn out about 3 times the amount. It can turn out, so yeah, that's right, okay. It affects turnout by up to 3 times the amount. That's right. That's so much. I can't even believe it myself when I read that statistics, right? Phone calls are the most effective way to do it. People want to hear someone talk on the phone. They're usually have questions about the election. They usually have questions about the candidate, and you're the first person they get to talk to. text messaging is not as effective. How many text messages have we all gotten on this panel? I've gotten at least 10 today, right? So what the thing
But
is,
it's for money.
It's for money, but we see the text messages because another statistic that came out is that 90% of all of us read those text messages within the first 3 minutes. And that is why texting is important, because we're going to see them and we're going to open it and we're going to go, I'm not sending you any more money, right? So we're going to do that. And then the last thing that I'll say is contactless canvassing is really important. The Trump campaign Joe Scarborough was being a little hysterical this week because he was saying Republicans are going out there and they're knocking on doors. Yeah, but they're also knocking on the doors of people that that's already their base, right? So Democrats have to do that too, which is also important. We're just not going to do it the same way Republicans do. We have to knock on the door, leave a door hanger, stand 6 feet, out. And if they have questions, they can. That's called contactless canvassing. That's going to be really important. So finally, all of it counts, all of it works. Not so much on Twitter. I don't want people to think that Twitter is votes. It's not. Twitter is a way for all of us to share information about this election. It's a way for us to go, oh God, how is Joe Biden polling right now? Which he's polling very well right now, by the way, let me say that. But that's a way for us to share information. That's not a way for us to get someone to change their mind and vote. So I beg all of you, when you watch this on the replay or watching it now, if you haven't signed up to phone call, I'm going to be doing it for Reverend Warnock in Georgia. I'm going to be doing it for Jamie Harrison in South Carolina. I'm phone banking for Biden and Harris. If you guys haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for? This is the election of our lives. Okay? All of it counts. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Awesome. Yeah, I always feel like I just stepped out of class when she finished talking, man. Like, oh, dang, got homework.
Has anybody used the Vote Joe app? I've been using that a lot. And my family member is mad. All my family mad at me because I done sent all the information. Everybody on my contact list got it. They're like, that's the reason why he's been texting. Yes, it was me. It was me.
Wait.
You didn't download the Vote Joe app?
I didn't download the Vote Joe app yet.
Y'all need to download the Vote Joe app. It pulls up your car. And guess what? You can also see people. I can tell y'all if y'all are some real voters or not because I can see you. Okay, so I can actually look up you guys as voters, like when you voted and stuff. Did you vote in 2016? Did you vote in 2018? I did all of that from the Vote Joe app, and I just entered the information, first, last name, and your zip code. Oh, I saw all of y'all info. Oh yes, I'm a good voter, by the way.
If you saw mine, I vote in every single election, including the special elections. I didn't even have to look up yours. I just knew. I have a host of buttons I wear every single time. I mean, I had my husband's downstairs. Before I was married, I had a one-night stand and went straight from that place straight to the voting booth. Okay, so I'm just saying. Okay? Just say, I'm not gonna let nothing get in my way to vote. That's all I'm gonna say. I said too much.
Yo, wow, yo. Hey, no, I did want to ask you something though. Like, since I know you vote all the time. Have you ever had someone running, like maybe a young person who is running for like student council or something, like come up to you and ask you for advice? Has that ever happened to you? Like,
yeah, all the time.
Oh yeah. Wow.
No, all the time. I get emails from people. I had a girl from high school. Her father worked in the Senate. I don't remember. Like I can't remember his name. I should know this. But she said wasn't a senator, but worked for one of the senators. And she's like, I'm interested in running for student council. And he said, I should reach out to you. I'm like, your father didn't want to answer that. And he was like, he just thought that you would be good as as someone that is maybe not as jaded by the process as he is. I said, okay. So yeah, no, I have those conversations with people. I have people asking what strategies. I've had campaigns asking what strategies they think that they should deploy for reaching out to communities and things like that. So yeah.
That's dope.
But anyways, everybody really download this app right here, the Vote Joe app.
I will.
Only reason why I want y'all to do it is if you're scared, it's not everybody. It can be as, out there like that to where they're actually able to talk to people. This is doing enough. Just actually giving somebody your contact list, people who may not actually be in their voter registration roll and stuff like that. This could help a lot. So just download it and then just send the stuff out. They don't even know it's you. Trust me. I had to tell them. So there you go.
Man, I hope they paid you for that. I know they didn't, but man, it's somebody you should have been hired just for that reason, like just to push that out. No, it says, one other thing I just want to think about real quick. The Department of Justice for Kentucky, there are somewhere around 200 people who work in that Department of Justice. Dan Cameron couldn't do a better job with only 200 people that he was dealing with in a DOJ that small. The only reason I say that because I'm thinking about when I said I made a tweet about you don't appreciate fully. Because you can't really appreciate something until you have something to compare it to. You can't really appreciate how great of an AG Kamala Harris is until you got something like really trash to compare and like measure up. Because you can't I could tell somebody, yo, such and such ran a 4.40, and you don't really know what that is by itself. But if you take an average human being who might run a 6 something, you're like, oh, that's fast. So when I take Kamala Harris and then I measure it up against, or you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I've gained even a greater respect for that there. I will say Tish James is that truth. I ain't gonna front. Shout out to Tish James. I ain't gonna front. You go bad. Hey, look, I'm a little common as far as AGs, but yo, Tish, that's when you get into the LeBron and Kevin Durant, you know what I'm saying? That's the Kamala Harris, Tish James, like it's LeBron, Kevin Durant, who no one. It's all love for both of them. We don't need to compete. We don't need to put women up against each other not in a vitriolic measure. But in a sportly, just regular, hey, who do you rather have, Venus or Serena? That's kind of like what we're getting at. Anyway, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap that up, you know what I'm saying, because we want to get in and get out like a phantom. But we want to make sure, folks, please take this seriously. Please vote early. Or if you're going to stand up in line and vote for real, then be committed to it. Bring some lawn chairs, bring some water. Do whatever you got to do. But we gotta get this thing. This is imperative. This is paramount. This is life and death, literally. So I will leave final comments to the panel.
We got one more thing, Reese. She got one more thing.
Oh, Reese, you did have one. I'm sorry.
I hope y'all weren't dragging that out because you forgot about the last topic.
Right. I was like, I remember. I was looking at the roster.
Oh, my favorite. Hold up. Look, we had that. We had.
Remember, we still supposed to talk about Trump and child. Go ahead.
Being afraid.
I'll take it over.
Go ahead, Reese.
So,
go ahead.
Today, Donald Trump released his so-called Platinum Plan for Black America. And I had kind of seen a little bit of a preview of it, a headline at least. And so prior to it even, all the details being released, I said, before y'all try to give this man credit for this, let me just be clear. These things are Columbus from Senator Kamala Harris. For instance, the headlines, right? Donald Trump is proposing making Juneteenth a holiday. Okay, Senator Kamala Harris introduced legislation to make Juneteenth a holiday. She gave her employees in the Senate Juneteenth off. He is proposing to make lynching a federal crime. That's what Senator Kamala Harris has led the charge on since she joined the Senate along with Senator Cory Booker. She has her own standalone bill. It passed with unanimous consent initially. Rand Paul is holding it up now that it's passed in the House. Donald Trump has said absolutely nothing about Rand Paul's single-handed obstruction of Kamala Harris's anti-lynching bill. It's also part of Senator Kamala Harris's Justice and Policing Act. Okay, so let's just be clear that these are issues that Senator Kamala Harris has put forward. Now, for some reason, when Democrats put forward this stuff, bird box, people don't see it, it's not a big deal. But when Donald Trump puts it forward, all of a sudden, oh, what y'all gonna do? What are Democrats gonna respond with? Joe Biden, what? Okay, wait a minute, hold up. Let's just be clear. Joe Biden released his Lift Every Voice. Now, I think all these names are cheeky, but that's fine. Apparently you need a catchphrase for stuff. Joe Biden released his Lift Every Voice plan in May, okay? Not 39 days before the election, like Donald Trump. So that's number one. Number two, let's also be clear. The Platinum scam is a propaganda document. Okay. And the reason why it's a propaganda document is because we actually have a record. Donald Trump has been president since January 2017. We don't have to be told what he will do because we can look at what he's already done. Okay. And there are several things in this propaganda document that we're supposed to believe he's going to do, despite the fact that he has a record of cutting funding for several of the things in this document. Okay. And I'm going to point those things out. It trips me out how I hear Black people all the time talking about, I don't trust Donald Trump's vaccine. I'm not taking the vaccine Donald Trump talking about. So you would not put your life and your health in Donald Trump's hands with the vaccine that comes out of this administration, but y'all believe that he's going to put $500 billion in the Black community? How does that make sense? Where does this credibility come from all of a sudden? You don't trust him with your life and your health, but you trust him to make an investment that he's declined to do and actually cut funding in our communities. Y'all got to keep the same energy. Y'all got to make some sense to me because it's not adding up. The math is not mathing, okay? But another reason why I said it's a propaganda document, because the devil is in the details. What the Trump administration, what Republicans generally, and Maya talks about it all the time, they're great at messaging. They're very great at messaging. They understand if you give somebody a bullet point, if you give somebody a headline, the details don't matter at that point. So they got their headline. Their headline is Donald Trump is going to invest $500 billion in capital and Black communities. That is false. That is propaganda. Repeating that is repeating propaganda unless you are actually debunking it. Now, I looked at his plan. It's not all that detailed, okay? Be clear. But the only reference to $500 billion in the actual details, not in the headline, but in the details, is in his infrastructure plan, right? So he references a $500 billion number in here. Now, this is the exact wording of it. Seek infrastructure funding that will lead to widespread growth in the annual $500 billion federal contracting opportunities. That's interesting. The current federal spending on infrastructure is $441 billion. Not 500, but okay, he's saying 500. So what he's saying is out of the $500 billion, there will be some opportunity somewhere for y'all in that. He doesn't say 10%, he doesn't say 15%, he has no specifics. How the hell is $500 billion, which is the entire country's infrastructure spending, by the way, how is that an investment specifically in Black communities? Now, if he said $500 billion in infrastructure in red line communities, $500 billion in infrastructure in specific communities based on this criteria, that would make sense. But $500 billion, $441 billion, to be clear, is the entire nation's infrastructure spending. That's not an investment in Black communities. That's not an investment of capital in Black communities. So let's just be clear about that. He talks about in here, there's another large number. There are only two numbers in, well, there are a couple of those. So there's $20 billion and invest almost $20 billion toward broadband and internet access to create job opportunities. Okay, that's also in the Joe Biden lift every plan voice. But what has the Trump administration done to increase broadband access? The Democrats, and specifically Kamala Harris, actually put forth legislation to increase broadband access. How come Trump ain't told Mitch McConnell to do something with it? Have y'all seen it? I haven't seen it. That's where the receipts come in, okay? But even if you want to say, okay, Trump is going to invest $20 billion in broadband. Now, again, that is the entire country, okay? That's not specifically to Black communities, but that number is also in Joe Biden's Lift Every Voice plan. So that's a wash. Another time, there's only one other time where there's a specific number. There are three numbers in the details. I already said $500 billion is the entire country's infrastructure spending. Less than that, but that's what he's saying. Okay, fine. $20 billion is the same amount that Joe Biden is proposing. Now, under the Obama-Biden administration, they did increase infrastructure spending and they did increase access to things like that, in addition to increasing access to green energy and things like that, none of which Donald Trump is doing. Now, there's one other time, there are two other times, so $400 billion in lending. Okay. That's for, again, the entire country. What are you talking about? Increased opportunities for small business lending and technical assistance through the community development financial institutions in order to grow businesses and generate wealth opportunities with over $400 billion in lending. Well, they already have lending programs right now. I've read a report about what's happening with the COVID, and they increased small business lending. There's about $300-something billion. They haven't even gotten through all that because there are so many barriers in terms of getting access, right? If you want to talk about even what happened with the Paycheck Protection Program,
Lord Jesus.
88% of Black businesses were shut out of the Paycheck Protection Program in its entirety. Then you had a portion of the people who actually did get something from the Paycheck Protection Program. Only a portion of those people got the full amount. So the proof is in the pudding. We don't have to go by a propaganda document when we see the record that's currently in front of our faces about how Black businesses are faring under the Trump administration. I believe Kamala Harris shared this staggering statistic. 400,000, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like it was that because I just remember my eye popping out. 400,000 Black businesses are going to go out of business under Trump's watch because of his botched response to COVID. Senator Kamala Harris, along with Ayanna Pressley, proposed a small business bill, Save Our Streets Act, that would have given grants to Black and Latino and people of color businesses, minority-owned businesses, micro businesses, not Kushner's and the Trumps and their businesses that got Paycheck Protection Program, but actually the small businesses, as Kamala Harris likes to say, the bodegas and the beauty supplies and the barbershops. Okay, that's what our Black businesses are. We did extensive rundown of that information several weeks ago. The other number, the last number that's quoted in here, it says increase the number of Black-owned contracting businesses, financial services entities, and private equity investment funds through regulatory reform, and up to $40 billion in government funding alongside traditional investment. Up to, that's not even a commitment, not even a minimum, up to $40 billion over what time period? And why haven't you been doing that already? I don't see any receipts in here. So I think it's very important to understand the rest of this. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4 times where any dollar amount is quoted in this entire document. All right. Now, if you go to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris's Black America plan, Lift Every Voice plan, there is so much data in there. This is a problem with the messaging of the Lift Every Voice Act. This is a problem with the messaging of the Biden campaign. They haven't given anybody a headline. So that's something they have to work on. They don't have any graphics. I looked at the social media toolkit. We go under the volunteer for Joe. There's no graphics about the Lift Every Voice plan. Black people want to hear about economics, okay? So this is a point of improvement for them. They have done a lot of outreach. I give them credit. I'm not saying they're not doing anything. But what I would say is that they have to understand the micro attention spans of social media. They have to understand the headline, caption, Twitter attention span, and they have to make this information accessible in a way that's meme-worthy, in a way that's eye-popping. So I will concede that. But the bottom line is that when you look at these specific investments in the Black community, and the deliberate policies, there's no comparison whatsoever. Okay, no comparison. I'm just gonna just read down just very quickly. Just throw out numbers. These are specific numbers. I'm not gonna give you context, but I'm just gonna give you an idea. Now I said 4 times right? That there was numbers in the entire plan of details. One paragraph, just one paragraph in the Lift Every Voice plan has 4 numbers: 1 billion, 3 billion, 30 billion, and 10 billion. That's just one paragraph, not the entire plan, the platinum plan. It's one paragraph. I could keep going, but it has statistics. It has something that's well thought out. So I just want you guys to understand this. The other point that I want to make is, and I might write a Medium post about this because I think it's important that somebody does it. So that's fine if it's going to be me. But another thing I just want to point out is a lot of these details, first of all, are Columbus from Kamala Harris. Okay. And a lot of these things are just words, right? Another thing that was glaring to me, nothing in this document about coronavirus. Nothing. 40,000 Black Americans are dead from coronavirus out of 200,000 Americans. So we make up 20% of the coronavirus cases, even though we are 12% of the population or 14%, some small number. We have higher hospitalization rates. We have higher mortality rates. We have higher infection rates. We have, like I said, 400,000 Black businesses are going out of business as a result of COVID. We're going to have an eviction crisis in Black communities as a result of COVID. We have an educational crisis, childcare crisis up the wazoo, okay? And yet there's nothing in here that's going to address that. Meanwhile, you have the Racial and Ethnic Disparities Task Force, which is another one of Kamala Harris's initiatives, which is incorporated into the Joe Biden platform, the Biden-Harris platform. So it's important that we actually have somebody who has specific measures to address the whole ass pandemic that's hitting us disproportionately, in addition to the Latino communities, which is being ravaged, and the Native American communities. So it's not just the Black thing, but they don't have any intentions in terms of the Trump administration of doing anything to address any of the economic or health fallout from the COVID-19 crisis, specifically for our communities. It cannot just be we'll have a rising tide, lift all boats, and best of luck, bitches. That's not going to work for our communities because we have systemic racism that has led to these outcomes. And so we need a systemic response to it. So that's another thing I wanted to point out. One of the things I wanted to point out too, he talks about addressing, this was investments into the causes and cures of kidney disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, sickle cell disease, maternal mortality, and other diseases that disproportionately affect African-American populations. There have been there's multiple legislation that's been put forth by Democrats and specifically by Senator Kamala Harris that addresses Black maternal mortality, which is a crisis that's collecting dust on Mitch McConnell's desk. Where's Trump's advocacy to say, hey, Mitch, pass the Black maternal mortality bill? Kamala Harris, along with Yvette Clarke, put forth the Uterine Fibroids Awareness and Research Act. That's billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in investments in that sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk. So I don't believe you, Donald Trump, that you're going to do a damn thing to address the disparities in our healthcare when there are specific bills that are collecting dust on Mitch McConnell's desk that you're doing absolutely nothing about. This is where I say it's fucking propaganda instead when we should have receipts. This is not theoretical. Well, what will Trump do? We know what he has refused to do. We know his hostilities to our communities. This is just factual, okay? I mean, another thing he's doing remarkably is presenting his criminal justice, which is about more policing, which is about ignoring the systemic racism, and somehow that's a net plus. I don't understand that. He makes no specific commitments about HBCUs. He says, continue to protect the vital role of HBCUs. Okay, Kamala Harris was the one that secured additional funding under the Trump administration that they like to tout, Trump increased funding for HBCUs as a result of Kamala Harris's and Doug Jones' advocacy for that. There's specific things that are actually put in the Biden-Harris plan, specific numbers when it comes to HBCUs, in the billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, even in some cases. He talks about STEM. That was an initiative that Senator Kamala Harris put forth in her plan in terms of marrying up STEM, Black STEM, with industry. Another thing, it talks about credit reporting and making reforms with that. That was one of Senator Kamala Harris's signature parts of her Black agenda, where they said, y'all, she went to Essence and she ain't even had nothing for Black people, which was a lie. Y'all too busy believing stuff on the internet instead of listening and watching the tape. But that was one of Kamala Harris's things that she put forth. And so this quote unquote platinum plan, which is a platinum scam, is nothing but a bunch of words on a piece of paper that you can wipe your ass with, because it's worthless. And it would crunch your whole asshole up. It would have all kind of scars and scratches in it, because I'm sure it's not going to be soft, okay? It's going to be hard to take up the ass, but that's about how much it's worth. If you're running out of toilet paper, print this shit out and wipe your ass with it, because that's what it's worth. We have what Trump has said, and we have what Trump has done. And that should be enough. He thinks he's done a good job, even though Black unemployment is double white unemployment, even though jobs are quote unquote coming back and Black people aren't getting them. So don't tell me about what this fool is talking about when half the stuff that come out of his mouth is crazy anyway. Give him one day. And don't tell me what's on the PDF. We don't do PDFs around here. Y'all remember that. We don't do the PDFs.
Right.
We need to see the receipts. So all I'm gonna say, I'm just gonna return and I'm gonna exit. You don't trust Donald Trump with the vaccine. Why the hell would you trust him with anything else?
But that's the media's fault. I mean, I can already tell, like, based off of the headlines, that's the media. The media has been doing the same thing that they were doing in 2016, is based off of how they want to project this. The false equivalency, saying that Joe Biden doesn't have a message. They don't have a message, even though it's clear as day. Sounds to me as if Donald Trump screenshotted KamalaHarris.org, because that's what it basically sounds like to me. It sounds like he just went and just copied a few things. And that maternal mortality rate that you were talking about, she introduced that in 2018. So why didn't he pass it then? Why didn't he push on Mitch McConnell to pass it then? It's been 2 years.
It sounds like a project that you had in school that's been due for like 6 months or 5 months, and you waited literally the night before to start it and do it and turn it in. Like, that's how undetailed and just bland this whole thing is. And yes, but
I just want to add one more thing, because this is a person who's on tape with Bob Woodward saying that Bob Woodward drank the Kool-Aid when Bob Woodward said that he has white privilege, and said, oh, but you know, we have white privilege, us old white guys. I was like, oh, you drunk the Kool-Aid. And he said he has no responsibility or no desire to understand systemic racism and racism against Black people. That's what he said. He's on tape saying this. He said that we don't have systemic racism in the criminal justice system. He said it is a few bad apples.
What?
So this is a person who has a well-documented, number one, white nationalist agenda that he's implemented. But he has a well-documented white nationalist rhetoric, racist rhetoric which diminishes the racism and systemic racism that we experience in this country, and which he will exacerbate. God forbid he gets another 4 years, because he's done enough damage as it is.
It's also the same guy that's on camera in the early 90s saying that I think if you're Black in this country, you have more privileges than a white man. I remember that too. So this is a dude. This has been around for a minute. Yeah. Also, I agree with you. The messaging on Lift Every Voice could be better, especially as it pertains to people understanding what entails, social media, making it pop, because people want to grab my attention. What is this? No one's going to sit there and read. I mean, I'm going to say no one, but it'd be great if they did. But the plan is so detailed and intricate. It doesn't work well with short attention spans, even though it literally has everything you've been asking for. or almost everything. Almost
Can
everything.
I
So we'll
I'm
work on that.
sorry. I know I've been dominating this conversation, but can I just
Take
give you now I'm not going to give you the details, but I just want to say that it addresses number one, it addresses capital, it addresses small business lending, micro business lending, it addresses health disparities, it addresses pay disparities, which is not something that's found in the other one. It addresses it addresses everything, as you said. It addresses every single part of our experience. Remember, Ice Cube's contract for Black America completely left women out, but this one actually addresses home ownership. There's nothing in the Trump plan that even talks about home ownership. There's no commitment, no dollar commitment towards that. There's no tax credits. There's nothing. It talks. Thank you, Sean. It talks about college affordability, tuition forgiveness. That's something that a lot of people are very concerned about. You certainly will not get anything like that from the Trump administration. Fair lending, home ownership, discriminatory practices against home ownership, combating gentrification. It talks about Black churches. It talks about affordable housing even outside of actually buying a home. It talks about the COVID crisis. It talks about actually building wealth, contribution plans, 401ks, things like that. It talks about caregivers and things like that. Investments in our communities, Social Security, which Donald Trump will basically see to the end of it. Again, infrastructure, equal pay, diverse hiring and promotion practices. Remember that Donald Trump is a person who wants to end anti-racism training. He actually did. His department directed that we end anti-racism training in the federal government because he says it's anti-American propaganda. Hello?
I mean, is he serious?
Yeah.
I mean, like, didn't this the Wells Fargo? Okay, I don't know if y'all saw, but didn't the Wells Fargo CEO just say that Black people are untalented, which is why they just throw our applications in the trash? Why he doesn't hire? I mean, are you serious? And it's blatant at this point.
They say that about every single field that's ever existed. When I was talking to someone who was a higher up at the Metropolitan Opera at the Met, I was looking at the blackface of two different Othellos that had sang in the opera, right? They were literally in blackface. And I said, why was there so much blackface for Othello, even like not that long ago? And he dared to say to me, well, you know, Black men just don't sing in that register, which is complete bullshit, right? This is just the thing that I literally gave a talk to Black MBAs and discussing, we were talking about hair policy and hair acceptance at work. And every single one of those men in that room was qualified to work at fucking Wells Fargo. So I'm just like, it's just bullshit. But to pick up, to just touch on what Reese said, one of the issues that I really have too is that because of the lack of cultural competency, the lack of diversity, the lack of inclusion in media, they hear something like this of Trump's and they think, well, we need to give it a fair shake. And that is fine if this was 10, 20 years ago, but that is not how it's worked in the last 5 years. We know that Trump lies. We know that all of his policies have harmed disproportionately Black people and Latino people and Native people. So I'm with Reese on the frustration with it. And that's why I'm hoping we can try to end this nightmare in 39 days, 39 days. 39 days, because it's ridiculous how much we're forced to swallow every day when we see them treating this still like a normal election. It's just not. So that's all I'll say about that.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's what I'm looking forward to, getting rid of this, because we have to pretend that this is legitimate. We have to pretend this person is an actually like adult, and we have to sit there and watch press conferences with people in suits and ties and have to sit there and like pretend that this, like, obviously the effects are real, but to pretend that these are real, a real decision maker and a real person, like that's the issue with me. This whole make believe, just like, are you serious? Why are we treating this person like he doesn't have mental issues? Like there's, you don't see nothing wrong with this. Why do I have to act like? Well, I've never read the Emperor's New Clothes or whatever, but but apparently it's to that effect. But yeah, sorry, Reese, I didn't mean to miss. This was actually the best part of the entire panel, or one of the best parts. So I appreciate you going into that. And I think a certain person should grab a camera and a phone and some background music and explain this lift every voice. And I think Simone should holler at me after that. Boy,
Who
I
else?
can't wait. I can't wait till y'all see what I got cooked up for this thing. Anyway, yeah, but yeah, oh man, I love this. Anyway, any final comment? Any final just 39 days, right? That should be the final comment right there. 39 days.
39 days, download the Vote Joe app, and y'all got to stop traps. I think what the problem is, a lot of people keep treating Donald Trump like this is a joke, because I know we've been laughing for the last 4 years,
right?
But there's nothing to laugh about. And I think it's the fact that we try to add the kind of, I think we have to keep ourselves from laughing, from crying. But sometimes
I have not been laughing. I told my husband today, I feel like I'm constantly in this like the way you're a teenager is just angry all the time. I just feel it's very exhausting. It's an exhausting state to be in, but I understand keeping our sense of humor, I think, is important to deal with the fact that this is, you know what it is? It's just the white supremacy in this country. We've always known it's there. We've always known it existed. Like for some people, one of my husband's father's friend texted me about Breonna Taylor. He's a white guy. And he goes, oh, I can't believe that happened. I'm like, are you serious? Because if you're Black in this country, you expect that shit to happen. Like that's no justice is going to happen. We're tired of it, is what we're saying. We're tired of it. And Donald Trump being elected has just exposed the white supremacy that was always pretending to be nice. You know, like that. So I'm in the South again. So that like Southern racism, that's all like, hey, how you doing? Oh, bless your heart. You know, that kind of stuff. But now it's been ripped and exposed. It's ugly head, and they're being blatant about it. So I think that we have to be blatant about the fact that we want it gone, that we want to shut it down, and that the only way we're going to be able to do that is voting our asses off. By the way, I do think it's happening. I'll say that as a good news.
I think we're gonna win. I'm speaking it into existence. We better backhand these people at the polls.
And I had shared earlier Maya's incredible voting plan. It's incredibly extensive. I really liked the part, Maya, where you had in there, and shit, I don't have it. I gotta find it again. But I really like
my pin tweet.
Oh, I can go to your pin tweet. Okay. Well, I just had it handy like 5 seconds ago. Because I shared it in the chat. Oh, here it is. I got it. Okay. I liked how you broke down when the absentee ballots were cast, because I initially was planning on sending my absentee ballot in, but then when I read your voter guide, and I said, wait a second, they don't even start counting those ballots until the day after the election. I was like, in my particular state. So I said, you know what, I might have to go on ahead and change that and do early voting. Early voting in my area is very smooth. It's not one of those nightmare scenarios where it's like, you know, you're in line for 3 hours, anything like that. I've never spent more than 10 minutes early voting. But that really made me think twice about how I was already planning on voting. So I have to do some more research to figure out how on hell I get rid of this absentee ballot and go ahead and early vote in my area. So I'm sure I will figure that out. But please look at it, because these deadlines are going to start approaching. Ballots might already be going out. There's a lot of details out there. I know, Maya, you would say, read the instructions. That means, and I think we said it last week, whatever ballot you fill out, whether it's absentee, and it's fine to vote absentee. I know a lot of people are saying, don't vote absentee, vote early and plan. It's up to you to vote what's best for you. You might not want to risk the things or whatever situation may be. The important thing is that you follow the directions. Use the correct color ink. Make sure you have the right signatures. Make sure you have the right envelopes. Make sure you're turning it to the right place. Make sure you fill out the bubbles properly. Read. You do it once the presidential elections are once every 4 years. Local elections once every 2 years, presumably, whatever. It's only 10 minutes once in a blue moon. Just take the time and read it. Instructions may have changed. So just understand what the specific instructions on your ballot is, whether you're early voting, absentee voting, or voting on the day of. read the damn instructions, folks, because the last thing you want is for your ballot to be spoiled because you just did not fill it out properly, you did not return it properly. I'm sure you might have something to add there.
Well, I'll just say that if you get your absentee ballot and you decide to vote in person, it's okay to discard it and shred it. It's okay. It won't be counted as voting twice because you're not voting twice. Sometimes kids spill stuff on that absentee ballot and they're like, damn it, and they have to throw it out. Sometimes people lose their ballot in their house. So it's okay if you have your absentee ballot and you decide to go in person instead. What you have instead is a great guide to know how the ballot looks, and you'll be prepared so that when you walk in, you'll know all of the ballot initiatives or the state local elections, because most ballot is straight down. Some states, it's not like that. They do it on purpose to confuse you. They just had a ruling in Texas because the GOP was trying to move the people around on the ballot to confuse people. So now it's back down to straight ticket voting, but it gives you an opportunity to look over your ballot. So yes, don't worry about that. My only thing is just vote early. That's it. Whether it's in person, whether you're mailing it in. My husband and I are literally voting absentee. We check every day to see when New York is mailing out our ballots. They just processed them. They're going to be mailing them out to us this week. And then within 48 hours, I say, turn it around and send it right back in. If you are going to try to get, like a lot of states say October 7th is the last day you can really apply for one, it's too late. You need to vote in person. Sorry, it's too late. Your ballot won't get mailed in time. It won't be counted. And Trump and Barr are gunning for votes to be late and to cut off voting right away. So just get it in right away because the lawyers are ready to defend your ballot. That's all I got to say about that.
One thing though, Maya, somebody pointed this out in the comment. I remember researching this. In Georgia, you have to turn in your absentee ballot to void it out, or you have to sign an affidavit about whatever. So just make sure that you follow the instructions on how to.
I have that on. I should have that on the guide where it says it. But in the majority of states, listen, the SOS, the Secretary of State in Georgia is terrible, and Brian Kemp, who's now the governor, is awful. In the majority of states, you can just get rid of your ballot and throw it away. There are places like Mississippi and Georgia that will have some special things going on with that because they're just ready to take away people's votes. But I would say definitely make sure. But in Washington, D.C., you're in D.C., right? I didn't think
I'm actually in Maryland, yeah.
Oh, okay, you're in Maryland. Okay. I thought Maryland was okay with that. I don't know. They are in Illinois. I'm fine in Illinois, so it just depends.
Yeah, I have to look into it. I'm not sure. I haven't looked. I had no intentions of not voting absentee, but now I got to look into it. So
yeah.
Well, I'm Drew here with Maya, with Kenny, with Reese. 39 days, y'all. BH Dub. You feel me? Take care.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.